Hey everyone, this is Curb and I bring you another standard match. Today we have myself on the right playing Magnolia once again, and on the left we do have Chronojet Dragon, still trying to kick even after the ban list. I believe this is post ban list, so anyways, we're going to be getting into it, just doing pretty typical early game things, not calling anything down, just riding into the inroad, swinging, getting blocked by a 15k guard, drive checking that Genosla, meaning that we at least have it, which was definitely one of my big problems in the last game, the 1 versus Ava. I could not see the Genosla because I was only playing it at 2. I think I'm still playing it at 2 in this build. I've since then increased the amount of Genoslas because I think it is a pretty decent card since this deck does lack a lot of cards that counterblast. But anyways, getting back into the match, we do see a GG coming on down, and then using the Steam Breath to add the Chronojet Dragon. Going to be blocking the GG with a Friendship Fairy because I believe I do have 2 in my hand. Going to be taking the Vanguard swing that's being boosted by the GG, hitting into a crit and damage taken 2 blanks. We're going to be discarding that critical trigger. Inroad Shooter's skill is going to let him call himself out. So for this turn, he is going to be a 10k attacker and an intercept. So I'm going to be hitting into OT here, which is pretty cool because it lets me get that Goildo into the drop zone, and it lets me push for 3 damage, which is definitely very, very good, especially when you're against a Stride deck set, a deck that actually wants to prolong the game as long as possible. So getting as much damage in as early as possible is definitely going to make things much, much easier on my part. Anyways, we do see the Chronojet being ridden using the skill of, I believe that's grade 2, what is he called, Smoke Gear Dragon, to Soul Blast 1, add the Bolif to the hand. We're going to try swinging the GG at the Inroad Shooter, but of course Inroad is still at 10k this turn. He will go back down to 8k when I lose my Ascendance Assault Vanguard, but I'm going to choose to not guard this attack, be hitting into 2 blanks, and of course I'm not going to get anything on the defensive, but that is fine because I'm going into this turn with 2 damage, which is perfectly fine. So looks like we are kind of thinking about what we want to discard. Unfortunately, I don't think we have a lot of revival in this deck, so things aren't as it isn't as easy to decide what we're going to be using. But we're going to be using the skill of the Goildo here, Soul Blasting it out in order to call out the Ascendant Assault, which is I believe I mentioned this in the last video. It is actually generic, so it can be written by anything, and I think it's especially good in this deck because you do have the Goildo. But unfortunately, I don't have the second Goildo, so I'm not going to be able to actually use that skill. But we do have the Friendship Fairy, so we're going to be sliding it into the Soul, and then Superior riding the grade 4 Magnolia. So now this is a little bit of a misplay. I don't think we realized this at the time, but Goildo is actually only active during the ride phase, which is pretty interesting. I don't know why they decided to make that card worse than it could have been, but you know, it's still a really good card. The only difference there is that I would kind of have Soul Blasted out the starter, and then when I rode the Magnolia, I would call it the Doa Goat. So this is an 18k Vanguard when it should be a 13, which is fine, I guess. But anyways, not the ideal board. We've got the Inroad, which doesn't have Intercept, and he's only a 3k. Or 13k attacker, but he still does hit, so that's going to be good. My opponent guarding with 2 5k shields, which is kind of interesting. I believe we're going to be realizing that we meant to guard with another card to make it a 2 to pass. Going to be drive checking 1, a draw trigger. Of course, we're going to be giving all the power to the Genosla. Drive check 2, a critical trigger, giving the power to the Genosla. And I believe we're going to give the crit to the Inroad Shooter because I think that's going to be one of my last attacks. I don't really know. Honestly, like, deciding where your power gets allocated, where you're putting your crit, is very difficult when you're playing Magnolia. Swinging the Alpin here, unfortunately only getting an extra 10k because that Inroad Shooter is not a grade 2 or greater. One of the things I don't really like about having Inroad Shooter, but he is still very, very good. Swinging the Genosla, or not. We're swinging the Goildo, which is going to be hitting for 25, so even though we did get a defensive, that is still going to be hitting. Going to retire it, draw a card. Our opponent gets a heal trigger, but we still can actually hit because the Genosla is at 35 thanks to those 2 triggers, giving that 35 to the Inroad Shooter, swinging for 48 for 2 damage. So this is going to have to block, but since we did get those 2 defensives, unfortunately a 15k is not enough because that 48 is a very nice magic number, so it is going to be calling out to that Elementaria. So Chronojet in a pretty bad situation here. already pushed to 5, where I am at 2 and barely going into the first stride. I think in this game we were kind of joking that he let me get first ride because my opponent does need to be grade 3 in order for me to ride the grade 4. But it looks like we're pitching 2 cards to stride. Questionable play, but I guess we're just doing it because we don't really have enough good cards. And we want to actually draw. So we're using the Ball of Skill to draw, and then the Cycle card skill to draw as well. So I believe that actually empties out the soul, so it's going to be difficult to use GG. I think we do still have access to Swirler, so maybe that can be something coming on down. But looks like we are going to just be leaving the board as is, meaning that this is going to be a 3 attack turn, although it's looking like it might be a 2 attack turn. Depending on which GG we time leap. Yeah, that makes more sense. The back row GG can get time leaped into the upstream so that we do actually get enough attacks. We have 3 attacks. Ideally, you would want 4 attacks because obviously it's Chronojet, but at least now that GG is hitting because the 5k from the crest, and then of course we chose to give the 5k from the Fate Rider to as well, so it is hitting for 16. Now, of course, we can swing the upstream for 20 and even give a booster to that GG. So we're going to be drive checking 3 things: a Ball Leaf, a plus 10k shield, and another GG. So that's not really going to be very good. We're actually going to swing the upstream at the rear guard, meaning that it doesn't actually get an extra 5k, and we're going to swing the other GG at the other rear guard, effectively damage denying me here. So unfortunately, I don't have the second Magnolia in order to re-ride and put the Goyle Dote back, and I also don't have a Panthero in drop, but I'm just going to be calling down my best attackers. It does kind of suck that I have to give up the Elena skill because I don't have any CB. If I had used the Alpine skill last turn, then I would have been able to use it, but it is totally fine. I think that calling down all this stuff and keeping the pressure on is ideally what I want to do, because I still do have at least 5 attacks. So we're going to be doing a 2 to pass, getting a pretty bad drive check there. We do see the mag, which would be great for next turn, but we do actually have to get to that next turn. And of course we do have that Inlet Pulse, which is going to be another good attacker. So we're going to swing the Panthero up at the upstream because this no longer hit the Vanguard. Alpine is going to be able to hit the Vanguard though, but that's just going to be calling for a 5k shield, guarding with the GG. And then of course this Doigo also going to be calling for another 5k shield, giving me another draw. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just keeping the pressure on, trying to make sure that I can finish this by next turn, because as you can see, the Chronojet player is running very, very low on cards. We did thankfully have the Ball Leaf, so we are going to be pitching in order to ride. It looks like we did actually have the Chronojet, so we could have gone into next stage, but I think honestly Fate Rider is just much better. Bot decking the what was that? That was a Panthero, so kind of unfortunate. Not really going to be able to call anything. It's looking like going to be swinging the GG. I'm just going to take it because I do have another PG, and I do want at least 1 CB. I think I might have a Gnosa at this point, but whatever. It's nice to have CB better than not. But we do see the Fate Rider time leaping the GG into the upstream, giving it an extra 15k. Just going to be PGing this Vanguard swing, not taking any risks, because technically I do die here to a double critical, but we'll see if we can get it. We're going to see a PG, a 5k shield, and 1 critical, and this upstream is going to be swinging for 55, which I think I have enough shield to block. I technically don't have to block it, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and commit the extra cards. So just in case I don't manage to finish things this turn, I will actually be able to survive a little bit better, because I'll be at 3 rather than 5. But we do see it looks like we ran out of good grade 1s. I don't think we have any soul left, so even calling the GG would not be doing very much. But somehow Chronojet still does have 6 cards in hand, but of course I am going to be swinging 6 times this turn, using the Goyle Dote to put itself to soul, using the mag skill to call it out, so we are at 18. Using the skill of the other Goyle Dote, because now I have 2, in order to give my Vanguard another 5k, but of course I can't really call it out. Drawing into a Forbidal, which is super cool, lets me actually get another card out of deck, or it doesn't, looks like we ran out of inlets, because I think we drove checked the last inlet, but of course Forbidal is an amazing card, and actually does let you call cards from the drop zone as well as the deck. So of course we're just going to calling down that last inlet that we drove check in the last turn, and we've got 6 attacks here, all hitting for pretty good numbers. We're going to swing the Vanguard for 23. We've got 18, 15, 30, 25, and another 18. So that's 10k guard, 5k guard, 15k guard, and 20k guard. So we're going to be guarding with the OT for an OT to pass. Going to be hitting into a draw trigger, giving it to the Alana because she is the weakest attacker. So now her guard is going to be another 15k shield. Swinging the Inlet Pulse. This is going to call for a 10k guard. Looks like we're doing a little bit of mental calculations, see what we can get to. We do have that 1 PG, so theoretically if we can get down to enough cards, we can use the PG for free, but otherwise PGs are kind of a little bit of a liability against multi-attack decks because they are 2 cards. But it looks like we decided we did not have enough cards to guard, so we're just going to bank on that heal, and of course that heal is not going to happen. So that's going to be the end of the game. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all these YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.